Hey, what's going on? I wanted to post this up because I couldn't really find any good information for old GM cars and these power antennas. That's the factory one. I was bombing down a back road and a branch went and took her out. And it's hard to see it, but bent it to the extent where it won't extend and contract anymore, and it busted the motor inside. So I ended up pulling it. You unscrew the top little bezel thing, and there's a bracket right there that has a single screw. If you open the passenger side door, there's a single screw right there. You undo and it'll fall out. And it'll fall into the bottom. What I did was I cut my wheel well right where you could bolt it back on as separate pieces, and it falls right down. And I'm just gonna put that back up in there when we're finished. For the electrical connections, this is the car side of the antenna. I got some non-factory stuff in here, so disregard some of it. This is AC fuel pump. You can see that plug right there that I got the end snipped on. That's your factory connector. Disconnect that and your antenna will come out. All those wires got a fish back down there. But anyway, that wasn't even the hard part. If you're using one of these Metra replacements, that's all that's on Rock Auto. I found that is wired differently than the factory power antenna. Like, it uses a different style of action to like change direction. Here. Oh, this is the for the service manual. Long story short, if you look, let's see, power antenna relay. I don't know where this is located, but you don't really need to find it. There's the wires for that pigtail we're just looking at in the antenna. You can see, long story short, hot at all times, 12 volt constant comes in, and it either powers the white as positive and the dark green as ground, or it'll, when the radio turns on, it'll rotate and power dark green as positive and gray as the ground. It changes poles. The new one doesn't do that. The new one, if you disregard that, I'm trying to add a switch, but if you power the blue, red, and ground wire, like, oh, sorry, apply 12 volt, I have a better picture right here. For the antenna to go up, you apply 12 volt to red and blue, black goes to ground. For off, all you do is apply 12 volt to the red. So the blue is your switch. 12 volts on all the time, and depending on whether you apply power to blue, will either extend it up, or if there's no power, it'll extend it down. But your black is always ground. So my problem was that the ground changes depending on what's happening, and your positive also changes because they reverse poles. Compared to the new one, they stay the same, and your blue is just the switch that changes it however it works inside. So I spent a bunch of time trying to figure out how to wire this thing, and I figured out you can't just connect all three to the factory pigtail and get it to work. This is what I had to do to make it work. Long story short, we see that red is powered in both cases. So I decided to run the red wire to constant 12 volts. It's just powered all the time. And then ground, requires a ground all the time. So I ran it to a chassis ground, 12 volt, or a ground constant. So those are hooked up all the time. The blue, I hooked up to the green wire on that factory pigtail because I put the factory setup here also on the car end, the pigtail end. This is what happens. You can see how they switch green and gray, and then they switch to white and green, but they're also flopped. So long story short, 12 volts with the green will turn it on. So for my new antenna, the blue wire, which was our switch, goes to the green, and these two get capped. You just snip them and cover them, and that works. I ended up getting it to work. Here's my Metra antenna. It's got a red, black, and blue. I have the red temporarily, I'm testing it here, hooked up to a constant. It's just right at the battery right now. And the black is attached to the chassis. So now all we gotta do is hook the blue up to that green. All right, let's give ourselves some power first. All right. Let's turn. Oh yeah, okay. Radio's on. Come over here, not doing anything till we hook up that wire. Our blue, she extends. And now when you turn the radio off, it'll no longer have 12 volts of that green wire. So we can simulate that by just disconnecting it. And there she goes back down. So I hope this is able to help someone. It took me a little while to figure out that conundrum. Also, for mounting it, it'll get mounted. I think I'll be able to use that factory bezel piece because it fits the fender nice. And I mimicked the factory mounting setup on the bottom by, it comes with a strapping. I just used some 1/4 bolts to remount back up this bracket because it's got threads in it that you want to be able to screw that bolt back in. So that's how I got that fixed.